I was on my way from the ranch in Cadereyta to go pick up my father-in-law at the Monterrey airport late one night. He was flying home from a trip to the States. I was making pretty good time, driving a big 15-passenger van we used as a church bus on Sundays. The road to the airport was a wide 4-lane highway with all kinds of traffic because it also connected Monterrey with other smaller towns to the northeast and continued on all the way to the Texas border. I was coming up behind a big tractor trailer in front of me that seemed to be slowing down, so I put on my blinker and moved into the passing lane. As I drove past the big rig, I noticed that he too appeared to be changing lanes to the right. But then just as I was alongside him, he turned sharply to the left, the cab cutting right in front of me. I slammed on the brakes and swerved, but it was impossible to avoid the collision. My van plowed into the huge truck, right into the diesel fuel tanks. The van crumpled like an accordion, shattering the windshield and pushing the steering wheel tightly into my chest. I sat there for a few moments to try to understand what had just happened. I was in an accident. I wasn't seriously hurt that I could tell. This big truck cut me off, apparently trying to make a U-turn. I could hear and smell diesel fuel pouring onto the asphalt just a few feet away. The glove compartment was by my right ear, the crumpled hood and front bumper inches from my face. I was alone in the vehicle, which was a good thing, because if someone had been riding in the passenger seat, they would not have survived. The seat was completely flattened by the crushed metal. I had no idea where I was, how I got there, or where I was going. It was just blank. I managed to open the door and squeeze out from behind the wheel. My chest was sore, but I was otherwise uninjured. The van, on the other hand, was completely demolished. I went to check on the driver of the rig. He just sat there in his cab. He was fine. He just didn't want to move. I opened the door of his cab. He looked down at me. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, or he was wasted or stoned. I couldn't tell. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me. I was a little concerned about all the fuel spilling onto the pavement, and I remember shoveling some dirt onto the spill to cover it at some point. Finally, the police showed up and talked to us. Little by little, my memory returned, and I figured out that I was on my way to the airport. The police went and got my father-in-law and brought him to the scene of the accident, and somehow they notified my wife and kids, and they later arrived at the scene too. The insurance adjuster came and we filled out paperwork, and a tow truck picked up the van, which was completely totaled. It was a long, surreal night, and I don't remember much, except what I have written here. I know I was thankful to have survived and that no one had gone with me to the airport that night. I remember being in considerable pain for some days after the accident. I guess God wanted me around a little longer for some reason. He reminded me how every day of life is a gift. We are all just a heartbeat away from eternity. This life seems to be all there is at the moment because it is happening right now. Yet the truth is that it can end in an instant. I am thankful for every day I am alive, and also for what awaits me when I do finally pass from this life into the glorious presence of my Savior. Thank you so much for listening to this true story from Memoirs of Mexico. If you enjoyed this story, or if it was a blessing to you, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. That would be a blessing to me. I upload a new true story every day. If you like to read, you can also order Memoirs of Mexico in paperback or ebook on Amazon.com. There's a link in the description. Thanks again for listening.